Hi, welcome to another episode of I Can Alteryx That with coaches Alex and John. I'm John. Today, we're going to cover Alteryx Weekly Challenge number 237, Wareki. Let's get started. Alright, so in this challenge, we need to make a macro. Let's go ahead and run this real quick. Didn't that run? Okay, so we've been given a list of dates in two different formats. One is the traditional year, month, date format that we're used to, and the other is called Wareki. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It is a Japanese date format that includes an extra character that signifies the era. The eras indicate the emperor at the time. So H04 indicates the fourth year of the Heisei era. And then the zero, like in this example right here, we have S55, 07, 30. So S55 means the 55th year of the S era. But the 07 is still July, and the 30 is still the day. And what we need to do is make a macro that allows us to convert either these regular dates into Wareki, or vice versa, Wareki into a regular date. And we can see those exhibited here. So I'm just going to go ahead and start a new workflow. And I'm going to copy and paste our list of inputs into a macro input tool. Alright, so just grab this, copy that, and there we go. So the first thing that I really want to do is, because we really need to have two different workflows here. One that does date into Wareki, and then the other does Wareki into date. So I think the easiest way to do that is let's grab a couple of radio buttons. And this first one will be Wareki to date, and I'll make that the default value. Let's add a annotation so we know what this one is. Then likewise, we're going to grab a second radio button, and this will be the opposite. Date to Wareki. We'll add an annotation. Okay, so with these two radio buttons, what I need for them to do is control the flow of data. And the easiest way to do this is in the developer tool palette. We can grab a detour tool. Let's just drop a detour tool. And so the good thing is, let's just make it detour to the right. It really doesn't matter. We can change that as we see fit. But I'm going to grab, I don't know, let's date to Wareki and connect it to the lightning bolt anchor there. And then with this action tool, see, update detour direction from question. If the checkbox or radio button is selected, the detour will go to the right. If the question is not selected, the detour will go to the left. So what we're saying here is, if date to Wareki is selected, we go right. If Wareki to date is selected, we go left. And then at the end of this macro, we'll have a detour end that'll bring these two flows back together. So let's go ahead and we're just going to work on the left input for now. One more thing I want to do. I'm just going to copy and paste our era definitions into the macro. I'd rather have them in here. So let's go ahead and work on these era definitions because they're going to be important in each workflow. So what I want, you see we have our start and end dates for each era. I want to have an individual record for each year in each era. So I'm going to grab a generate rows tool and connect those. What I'm going to say here is let's create a new field called years. Our initialization expression, that's going to be, well, what we need to do is grab the year value from our end, or pardon me, our start, I mean. So since I'm assuming start and end are strings, let's just go ahead and say to number right of the start field, the right 4 characters of start. So then our condition expression, we want this year's value to stop at the end year. So this will be where years is less than or equal to, and we're going to do the same thing as our initialization, except now we're looking at the end. And our loop expression will be years plus 1. So you see when we do that, let's go ahead and find out what happens, make sure everything looks good. We run that. Everything looks good. Meiji runs from 1868 through 1912. And you can see Taisho starts in 1912 and then goes to 1926, but we have two 1912s. And I'm going to worry about that later. We'll use a filter to deal with that. I think that'll be the easiest. Just scroll through, make sure everything looks good. Wait a second. Okay, so we've got the Reiwa era, and I hope I'm pronouncing these right. The R era starts on May 1st, 2019, but I saw down here, this Heisei era went all the way through to the end. So what I'm going to do, because there's no end of this era, let's just go ahead and put that as today's date, October 12th, 2020. And I think that'll be the easiest way to deal with that. And we could have done a formula tool that says if null, then today, whatever. But you can see there we have our Reiwa is 2019 and 2020. Alright, so now what I want to do is, regardless of the direction we're going, I need to pull the year value up, because looking at this original input for the Wareki, we have this 2-digit year input. So I need to get that. I need to convert this year's value to like 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So there's a few different ways we could do that. Let's just go ahead and grab a formula tool. We could also do this with a multi-row formula. I'll call this year's value. And this will just be the arithmetic of years minus, and just kind of like what we did before, 2 number, right of start, length 4. Then we're going to add 1, so it starts at 1. So then we do that. You see we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, resetting at the end. But we need these to be 2 digits, so let's go ahead and pad left of this whole thing the character 0, and we'll make it too long. Now let's wrap this whole thing in a 2 string as well. Yeah, it's getting a little messy, but okay, where did I go wrong? Let's, you know what, rather than messing around with all that, because I can't see where I mistyped something there. Make sure I didn't mess that up. Of course I did. Oh, there we go. Let's just go ahead and update year's value, and we'll say pad left to string year's value. Actually, now that I look at it, I think I just messed up the order of the pad left that first time. But whatever. Doesn't matter. We've got our 2-digit year's value now. So now let's go ahead and look at our dates up here. Does it really not run through? Oh, that's going to be frustrating. So, because data doesn't flow through... No, pardon me, I'm just being stupid. Alright, so let's attach this browse to the right input. So remember, we're just gonna... this is... You know what I'm gonna do? Just for the sake of working on this, I'm gonna make a filter where the left... Okay, so we want the left of our field name, the first character. What I want to do is filter for when the first character is a letter. Actually, let's make this even easier. Let's just worry about... We'll just take one case. Why not? Okay, so we got these 2 cases, and that'll be our Wareki to date. So let's just move this detour stuff out of the way for now. We'll worry about that later. Okay, so we've got Listen, what we have to do is create that same year value. Basically, we have to pull out all these four things: the era, the year, the month, and the day. So that should be pretty easy. We'll just grab a formula tool. We'll make era, and this will be left, field 1, first character. We will make a year value. This will be, so we'll use a substring. This will be field 1. Remember, Alteryx starts at 0, so this will be 1 with a length 2. And we'll just continue. We've got our month value. Substring. Field 1, now we're starting at the third position. Again, length 2. And finally, day value. Substring. Field 1, start is now 5. Length is again 2. We run that. Okay, so we have all of our values now. So what we need to do now is join these two data sets on era and years value. So hopefully everything is nice and neat. We'll join era equals era, years value equals years value. Let's go ahead and run that. Okay, so you see we have all of our stuff in here now. So now I think all we need to do, because we're going from this Wareki field to a date, all we have to do is combine our month value, our day value, and our years columns right here. And then we should have our date. So we'll call this date. So this will be toString years plus, and then we got our dash plus month value plus dash plus day value, and we'll wrap all of that in a toDate. Make sure we set this to a date type. All right, now I'm just going to deselect everything from there except for field 1, which I'm going to rename to Wareki. Deselect all of these guys. And our date, and that should be it for that stream. There we go. Okay, so not too bad there. So now we have to worry about the other route where we have our regular dates here. So hopefully I don't need to worry about, actually, you know what? What letters do we have? Let's just make sure it's a little cleaner. We've got S, H, R, and M. I don't think I'm missing anything there. So let's change this filter real quick. We use the in function, super handy. S, H, R, and M. I thought there was another one. And there's a T, but in case I missed it, let's just add the T in there. Alright, so we have our Warekis to our dates. So now in this false node, we have all of our dates that we're going to convert to the Wareki. So let's grab another formula tool, and this way we're going to be going in the opposite direction. Because of course we have dates, and we need to get those values split out of those dates. So again, let's make a year's value. This will be toString date time year of our of toDate field 1. Okay, that's pretty easy. And let's just do the same thing. We'll make a month value. Copy and paste that, and just change date time year to date time month. One more thing we had to add here, again, the months need to be 2 characters long, so we'll do pad left, all that. Pad left length 2, padding the 0 character, just like that. And then finally we will do a day value. Copy and paste everything and change this from date time month to date time day. When we run that, so, all right, everything looks good there as far as I can tell. All right, so we've got our year's value here. We have our year's value down here. So let's go ahead and do another join like we did before. So this will just be on year value, or year's value. Oops, forgot to connect them. And year's value. So let's go ahead and run that and see what happens. Uh-oh. So we got year's value there. Make sure I didn't mess anything up. Okay, so that should have been joined on years, not year's value. My apologies there. Oh, but years is an integer, so let's go ahead and change that to a string type. Okay, so now it should be good. But you notice here, we have 6 dates flowing in, but 9 dates flowing out. If we notice, this date right here, 1926, February 25th, was duplicated. And that's because in 1926, we went from the Taisho to the Showa era. So what I'm going to do is do a filter, and I'm going to say our field 1 has to be greater than the start date, and it has to be less than the end date. And that should filter that down. And I've already written this formula out, so I'm just going to copy and paste it to save some time. So all I'm saying is I'm making our field 1 a date. I'm saying it has to be greater than or equal to date time parse. So I'm just converting start date or start to a date field. I'm saying %m dash %d dash capital Y is our 2-digit month dash 2-digit day dash 4-digit year format. So that's all that is. All right, and you see that's limited us down to our 6 records there. And just like before, so we're going from our field to our date to our Wareki. So I will grab a formula just like before and throw all these things together. So we're going to do era, our year's value, our month value, and our day value. And that should be, we'll call this Wareki, and that should give us our answer. Era plus right year's value plus month value plus day value, and that should be all we need there. Grab a select tool, get rid of everything else. Rename field 1 to date. All right, and we've got our dates turning into Warekis, and over here we had our Warekis turning into dates. Now, we had this filter because it would have been kind of confusing using the detour tool, so I'm going to delete this filter, bring our detour back down. So by default, we're detouring to the right. So make sure we set this correctly. I think that should go there, and that should go there just like that. And now what I need to do is get rid of these browses. Let's make everything look a little prettier. Go back to developer, grab a detour end. And so you notice detour end has the L and R's. Make sure that whatever flows from the L in our detour tool flows into the L on the detour end, and likewise on the R's. Then we can grab a macro output. Okay, and that should be everything. We'll go ahead and save this. Challenge 237 solution. Oh my goodness, I'm typing. Save that. Now let's go back here. We don't need these definitions. Grab our challenge 237 solution. Oh, I forgot. Let's go back here. On our macro input, let's turn off show field map. We don't need that. Make sure we save it again. Yep, and now we've had our selection here. We'll grab a browse. So Wareki to date. Hey, we have our 5 Warekis, we have our dates. Let's see if they match. H150224 goes to 2003. Actually, let's just see. 0224, 24. Yep, it looks like all of the months and dates are matching. Is H15 a 2003? 8/15/2003. So I'm happy there. Date to Wareki. Let's run that. I got some errors or some warnings for conversions, but whatever. All right, we have our dates. Let's look at all the months and the days match. Does 1926 map to 15? And there we go. All right, that was, kind of complicated, but we got to use the detour tool. That was cool. We got to use some radio buttons, build a macro, a lot of formulas, but there you have it. There is my solution to weekly challenge number 237. As always, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the Data Coach channel for more awesome lessons on Alteryx and all things data analytics and visualization. Follow Data Coach on Twitter at AskTessellation and follow me personally at jemery_dataviz. Thanks again.